The vice president is headed to the U.S.-Mexico border today. J.D. Vance set to arrive in Eagle Pass, Texas to discuss border security. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard will be with him. Now, President Trump spent a lot of time touting his administration's border policies last night, and he's calling on Congress right now for additional federal funding for his border crackdown and mass deportation plan. But he also celebrated the swift changes to border policy.
Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded.
CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya-Galvez joins us more. Camilo, help us understand exactly where you are and fact-check the president's claim that 21 million people, in his words, poured into the U.S. in 4 years under President Biden. What's accurate as you see it?
Good morning, Errol. Well, it is true that Customs and Border Protection over the past 4 years, mostly under the Biden administration, recorded record levels of migrant encounters. That means that the agency processed a record number of people who did not have documents and authorization to come here to the U.S. And it is really important to note that while that is the case, Errol, it is nowhere near close to that 21 million number that the president cited in his speech. The number of nationwide encounters by CBP was around nearly 11 million since fiscal year 2021 up to fiscal year 2024. So about 11 million times migrants were processed by CBP at the U.S.-Mexico border, here at the U.S.-Canada border, in coastal sectors, and also at airports, mostly under Biden administration programs that allowed people without documents to come here to the U.S. to discourage them from crossing this border behind me illegally. And what is also very important to note that while there were 11 million nationwide encounters over the past 4 fiscal years, that does not mean that 11 million people were allowed to stay in the country indefinitely. It is true that many of the migrants processed here over the past 4 years were released from federal custody to await their immigration proceedings, but it is also true, Errol, that the Biden administration during that time span, those 4 fiscal years, carried out about 4.7 million expulsions, deportations, or other repatriations to migrant home countries or to Mexico, which is right behind me. So that is really important to clarify.
And Camilo, as you're in the border town of Eagle Pass, where the vice president is headed to, the defense secretary and others, how do people there feel about Trump's announced changes in policy?
Well, just to put it in perspective, Errol, this border town of Eagle Pass here along the Texas border with Mexico used to be an epicenter of that unprecedented migration crisis along the border under the Biden administration. Back in 2023, during a record-breaking surge in illegal crossings here, up to 4,000 people a day were crossing into the sector alone across the border, and more than 10,000 of them were crossing the border across the entire U.S.-Mexico border per day during Sundays during late 2023. And the situation here has changed markedly and dramatically since then. Now, there are only a few hundred people crossing per day along the entire U.S.-Mexico border, and only a few dozen per day in this sector near Eagle Pass. In fact, in February, Border Patrol reported fewer than 9,000 Border Patrol apprehensions of migrants here. That is the lowest tally in at least 25 years. Errol?
Really interesting, Camilo, and great to get your insight as someone who has covered this topic so extensively and, of course, traveled along the southern border for CBS News. Camilo Montoya-Galvez, we appreciate your reporting. Thanks for that.